Well, for a lot of years, $1 million was considered the gold standard for retirement savings. But is that really going to be enough? There's some new analysis out there that kind of shows you, depending on where you live, how much that million might last. We're going to tell you where Georgia stands in that compared to other states and really talk about how you figure out how much money you're going to need for retirement.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple, to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
Welcome into another episode of My Retirement Clarity. I'm Ben George. He is Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor at JL Perkins Wealth Management. Lee, good to be on your show once again with you. I think this is interesting because, $1 million, everybody wants to become a millionaire, right? That's such a big target financially for people. But do you still hear this, right? That a lot of people think $1 million is going to kind of be the cure for having a successful retirement?
Yeah, I really do. It's probably still that elusive number for a lot of people that people chase. And man, once they get there, I ask the question, hey, you're now a millionaire. How do you feel? Do you feel any different? I've never had a single person say, man, I have arrived. Everybody's like, I don't feel any different. And then they start questioning on whether or not it's enough. But yeah, that's probably a question I'm asked all the time. Hey, is $1 million enough? I got to have $1 million to retire. So it should be a fun conversation day as we break down a couple of articles.
Yeah, we will share those articles with you. If you have questions, 478-254-3550 or log on myretirementclarity.com. And the easiest way to schedule a meeting with Lee anytime is go to talkwithjlp.com. So again, you mentioned a couple of articles, a couple of links we're going to kind of go through, but just to kind of quickly summarize what these things show us is that the analysis reveals that where you live, right, where you retire, plays a huge role in how long your savings are going to last, as we know, and 1 million is not going to stretch as long as you think, and the study factors in cost of living, expenses, Social Security benefits, state-by-state spending data, really just kind of highlighting those financial realities that you're going to face depending on where you live. So we want to kind of answer that question, is 1 million going to be enough? So I'm curious your takeaways, Lee, as you kind of look at this analysis that kind of goes state by state and shows you, hey, Georgia's kind of middle of the pack in terms of how long $1 million, and when you include in Social Security for that amount as well, how long it's going to last you in retirement, it seems to be a decent amount of time.
So articles like this, and both of the articles that we're kind of referencing here today are from gobankingrates.com, I think, and you can find articles like this all the time at different sources, but you could pretty much just Google how long does $1 million last, and you'll find similar articles. So to me, there wasn't really anything that was earth-shattering news here. The big takeaway for me is that it costs different amounts to live in different states. And as you said, Georgia is sort of right there in the middle. And so in the first article, it pretty much just says that Georgia, it says average monthly expenses are $1,873. And then it adds in the cost of living for one person after Social Security benefits is $23,000 for one person. Okay. So, it says, so how many years will $1 million in Social Security benefits last? It says 43 years. So most of the people listening to this show are already in the late third quarter, maybe fourth quarter of their life. They're like, all right, 43 years gets me to the end. I should be good. But at the end of the day, that's just some numbers that they sort of came up with. You've got to do these numbers on your own. So don't take too much stock into the numbers that you see in some kind of article, because the first thing we want to do is we want to compare ourselves, right? And People ask me all the time when they come in, like, hey, where do I rank in your clients as far as how much money that I have? It's kind of funny that that's something that people want to know. And so the tendency is when they see an article like this, say, okay, well, I've got a little bit more than $1 million. maybe my money lasts longer than 43 years, or maybe I don't have $1 million and it's only going to last 10 years. Like, am I really in trouble? So yeah, it really just depends on where you are in the country. The second article I think was a little bit more, probably a little more realistic, because it shows the total annual expenditures for Georgia being right now, I guess for a married couple, about $52,000. And so in their study, it says, how long will $1 million last? But it's just with having $1 million, not factoring in Social Security, it says 19 years, 0 months, 11 days. Now, how are they calculating that it's exactly 19 years, 0 months, and 11 days? Man, maybe they got a better calculator and their assumptions are maybe different than ours. But what I know is life happens, and if I'm spending $52,000 this year, it ain't gonna be $52,000 next year.
Yeah, no question. Look at some of these numbers and just kind of give you a little bit of a range here. So on that first article, and again, we'll drop these in the show notes as well, Georgia's at 27th, so kind of middle of the pack, I guess, which is good. You don't want to, I guess, beat the top of this list, which is Hawaii. So Hawaii, Lee, it's going to be this is after Social Security benefits. The cost of living annually is $80,000. And on the low end, you can live in West Virginia, Lee, if you wanted to, and the amount that's going to cost you is around $11,000 every year after benefits.
Wow.
So a pretty big range depending on where you live.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the number was like, how long can we live in Hawaii on $1 million? What was that? 11 years? 12.48 years. Oh, is it 9? Okay. So that's crazy, but I think we can live for like eternity if we live in like West Virginia. I see 88.79 years in one of the articles. Yeah. So yeah, you can live forever in West Virginia, but probably if you had the choice, Hawaii or West Virginia, you're probably going to choose Hawaii. But then it comes down to time. 12 years versus 88 years. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it just, again, it goes back to the point of, hey, it depends on where you live. This is why you can't ever have one blanket answer for how much do I need for retirement? Well, can't really tell you that until you dig into these numbers. But Lee, also looking at these numbers, I'm just curious for someone that you're working with there in Georgia primarily, when you see it can last pretty long amount of time with the $1 million in savings and with Social Security, it seems like a pretty good combination there, right? It says 43 years. I mean, but how do you truly identify that? Because if you look at that, somebody says, well, Lee, 43 years, $1 million in Social Security benefits, that's plenty of time to cover me for retirement. But is that always the case?
It's not, because all retirements are not created equal. Everything that happens to you doesn't happen to your neighbor, and vice versa. How long $1 million lasts you is completely dependent upon what your expenses are. These articles only break down groceries, housing, utilities, transportation, and maybe even healthcare. It doesn't factor in quality of life, trips, gifting money to charity or grandkids or anything like that. And so everybody's vision of retirement is different. And so that's why there's not a standard answer to, will $1 million be enough? So my answer is it depends. It depends on your situation. I have clients that have $3 million, and they're going to struggle in retirement because of the amount of money that they spend and the debt that they have. And I know there's a lot of people out there going, $3 million, how in the world can you not survive on that? Well, here's the math. If you retire, you got $3 million, and the quote experts tell you shouldn't take more than 4% per year. That's about $120,000 a year before taxes. So if they've got a couple of Social Securities, you add in, I don't know, $40,000, $35,000 of Social Security. You add that on and then take taxes off of that. So maybe you're $150,000. Well, if you have a $200,000 or $250,000 lifestyle that you don't want to go backwards on when you retire, you don't have enough money to retire. So you either have to do one of a couple things. You got to work longer. You got to pay more of your stuff off, really dig into your expenses and address those things, or you got to save more. I mean, there's a couple things, right there that you can do. So It really just depends. And like I've said on this show probably 50 times now, I've met people with $2 million, $3 million that can't retire, and I've met people with $250,000, $400,000 that are going to live like kings and queens because they've got no debt, no obligation, pretty much a low budget lifestyle. And so they've got enough money coming in with pension, Social Security. It takes care of everything. So then that $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 just becomes gravy. And you can, if you don't have debt, you've got options. So that's kind of how I answer the question, what is enough? Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase, How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
Yeah, and again, all this stuff is based on averages, right? So if your annual housing cost isn't going to be the $9,000 average there, then obviously your money's not going to last as long. And same with health care and transportation. All these things are going to be different for every person. So let's kind of give some final thoughts, Lee, for anyone that is still kind of thinking, hey, $1 million is still going to be my target. I can make, based on these numbers and based on kind of my own math, I think I can still get, 19 or 20 years out of that money. How would you kind of encourage them to think about what they have saved and kind of what their target goal should be?
Rather than focusing in on just the money that you've saved, because there's not a whole lot that you can do in the last couple of years of retirement. It pretty much is what it is. You're going to have the opportunity to earn some money in the market. You're going to have the opportunity to contribute more to your account to generate some more earnings or growth. So if you're, $1 million turns into $1.2 million, that's fine and dandy. We want that to happen. But the million could also turn into 800,000, and then you've got, you got to figure that out. But I would tell you to really, really dig into your expenses. And I'm not saying cut your cable and don't watch TV and get rid of everything, because I don't want any of our clients to take a back seat in retirement to the lifestyle that they have before they're working. But dig into those expenses, get rid of the unnecessary things that you are spending right now, because when you don't have those things, you just have more options. Get rid of debt and really dig into whether or not the house payment makes sense for you in retirement. Can you still do it? Does it make sense for you to maybe pay off your house? Ben, that's probably a question that I get all the time, is people come in and they owe $30,000 or $40,000 on the house. They got a $300,000 house and they owe $30,000 or $40,000, and they're like, should we take out a lump sum and pay it off? I mean, it depends on how big of a chunk you have to take out of percentage-wise of your overall assets. If it doesn't jeopardize you in the future and it will help you sleep better at night, take it out and pay it off. But if you only got 3-5 years left to pay on a house, you're paying a lot towards the principal at this point, and there's probably not getting eaten up with a whole lot of interest cost. So a lot of that payment is going towards principal, and if you've had it a long time, you probably got a pretty decent interest rate, a whole lot better than the 6.99% that I have on my house, which is not fun at all, but I know that it's cyclical. At some point, I'll be able to refinance. So again, I'll just kind of reiterate, Ben, it is your ability to retire when you want, how you want, is more about your expenses than it is the money that you have.
I love it. All right. Well, very good. Hopefully this helps you out. And again, we'll drop those links in just so you can see them for yourself. But it's kind of cool to see those different numbers. Not that they totally mean anything for you and your specific retirement. But again, it's always best to work with a financial advisor to really help you hone in on your numbers, what you need to have saved, and how to reach your goals. Everybody's dream for retirement is different, and you want to have someone that can help tailor that dream for you. All right, myretirementclarity.com is the website to learn more, but also talkwithjlp.com. Lee, appreciate your time as always, and thank you again for listening to My Retirement Clarity. Got another show coming in a couple of weeks, so we'll talk to you then.
Looking forward to it. Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now, but I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger, so here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.